happy today. I am William Brown from IamWilliamBrown.com. This is Disconnect to Connect One Word Conversations. Now, this show is brought to you by I Am William Brown, and this is the moment where I do the advertisement, the all of those things to let you know about all the wonderful things that are happening at IamWilliamBrown.com. IamWilliamBrown.com is a place to find items and conversations to help you be yourself and live your life. Items like the U cards and the U journal, and the Beyond the Shell book series. Now, as I set intentions with my U cards, and for those who you are new, in the U cards there are three categories or three sections in the U cards, which are I am, you are, and the quote card. So my I am card for today is I am purpose. I am purpose. My you are card is you are enough. And my quote card for today is be you, do you, for you. I don't know about you, but I like when I pick a card and I quote myself. It's like it's like I'm learning from myself or something. I don't know. Sometimes you just have to encourage yourself, and so it's great when I get to do that. So, with my intention set for this show, we look at our word for today is whole, and this has really sat with me for a number of days and probably a number of months actually, because I've embraced the whole and complete model or conversation around my life. And so the more that I do that, the more I believe that I'm able to be in my life. So with that in mind, I am going to invite one of my friends, and we're going to have a one-word conversation.
Good morning, Bill.
Good morning. Good morning. How are you?
Good morning. I'm doing well. How are you?
I am doing great. Now, this is the moment where I invite my guests to introduce themselves however it feels comfortable.
Great. Well, I am Carrie Zarotney, and I am a certified human potential coach and meditation teacher. My company is Nurtured Healing, and I basically help people make changes, life changes that last. And much of that is done through habit change. And certainly meditation is one of those habits that I assist with. And a lot of things where people are just finding that they're just stuck and needing to move forward. And I help them get to kind of the bottom of that and work with it in order to be able to move forward.
Wow. Well, thank you very much. I think I realize why I like you. It's like because of what you're up to. I mean, because it's really a part of this journey that I'm on, and so connecting, all of that that conversation to my life, and so I get it. I get it. So how does the word whole occur to you?
Well, it's interesting because as you were talking about being more whole and complete and seeking that for yourself, it, for me, I believe that we're all born whole and complete.
Right.
And it's through our experiences, ones that are difficult, maybe via a well-meaning or not so well-meaning caregiver or an adult who's in our life that, children tell you, or I'm sorry, children become what you tell them they are. And so that we kind of get holes, HOLES, in our heart because of that.
Right.
And we lose that WHOL wholeness. And so that's part of what nurtured healing is to me, is that it's a way that nurturing ourselves so that
Right.
we can get back to that wholeness and truly live that purpose.
Right. I really get the I guess the nurturing part about it because in the process of writing my children's book, I realize where the holes, the
Mhm.
HOLES, were, and what because within the conversations that kind of caused me not to think of myself as whole.
Mhm.
And so there was always this feeling of something missing or something lacking. And it took as long as it took. I was going to say it took too many years for me to come to that understanding, but it took as long as it took, right?
Mhm.
And now I'm at the place where I think I'm nurturing myself, and that's why I love what
Mhm.
the work that you're doing. I'm nurturing myself back to wholeness,
Mhm.
and just to really embrace that work of not blaming or shaming people because they created the holes in my
Yes.
life, but just identifying them and doing the work of filling those.
Yeah, it's beautiful. And really, those holes, HOLES, in our
Yeah.
hearts are unmet needs, right?
Right.
So I'm a parent. I know you are. No parent sets out to hurt their child or upset their child, but we
Right.
all come into it with our own holes,
Right.
and therefore we're kind of have looking through this worldview as if it's our own
Right.
set of glasses,
Right.
and trying to get those needs met in
Right.
our current relationships. And our children don't need that they need to repair something that happened when we were 5. it's
Right.
it's so interesting to me that we're all showing up and operating this way, not recognizing that that's where our starting point is.
Right.
But we know, because we have that feeling of not enough or something missing or stuckness or something to that extent. We know that's there, but we
Right.
start to seek it, our WHOL wholeness, outside of ourselves,
Right.
and that can be through things and stuff and everything. And then, like you just said, you've come back to yourself and
Right.
realize the only place I can find that is within me. And
Right.
are there repairs that I need to do? And I'm the same. I don't claim to have a magic wand to be able to say, make it all go away. I still have
Right.
some unmet needs that I'm working on a regular basis, but it's the awareness of it
Right.
and the
Right.
understanding that I can get back to that wholeness in the first
Right.
place.
Right. No, that is, it's, I say in this work of self-discovery that, it is painful and difficult at times, but it's worth it. And I think it's like how we look at the holes,
Mm-hmm.
the HOLES, in our lives, and I think too often I will say that I was upset that they caused them, right?
Mm-hmm.
Who caused,
Sure. Yep.
it's like, I, grew up in a single parent household. And so the whole of not having my dad around, it took years for me to not blame him for that,
Mm-hmm.
but just allow my heart to come to a place to fill that hole and to be able to love him and communicate with him on a level that sometimes it feels odd or it doesn't make sense because it's like, dude, this guy wasn't around. Why are you giving him all this grace?
Sure.
Or why are you doing all this? And it's like, because that's who I am. Because
Mm-hmm.
that's, I
Mm-hmm.
can concentrate on everything else that wasn't, or what I was
Mm-hmm.
missing in that time, or not. But, really when we, I'll speak for myself. Too often, I don't know about you, but I put we in there to cover up, things that I'm dealing with. But so just own it,
Sure.
Sometimes when I lose sight of my wholeness, my the with the W, right? I'll just do that, right?
Yeah.
It is because I let's see, I want to make somebody else responsible. You know what I mean? I want to kind of not let them off the hook, or not, or kind of, in some case, stand up for myself and kind of say that. But it really doesn't feel good. It doesn't feel like that's the way to go, but I still find myself in that place. Do you, I mean, does that make sense, or does
Yeah,
that,
absolutely. Absolutely. I think that that's a common thing for many people. I certainly do that because it's way easier. It's the whole like pointing the finger at somebody else. You have four fingers pointing back at you. It's
right,
way easier to try and put it outside yourself because oftentimes it is pain and it is shame and
right,
all of that type of stuff. So it seems easier to put it on someone else than to have to take
right,
personal responsibility.
right,
And then, because if you take personal responsibility, then you need to do something about it. And
right,
oftentimes, and I should say that I need to do something about it.
right,
Oftentimes,
yeah,
we don't know what to do and where to
right,
start because those unmet needs or those holes in our heart are so deep and could be as simple as mom forgot to pick me up from school or was late because she ran into an accident or something. And all of a sudden, I don't feel like I'm loved. And then I
right,
start to carry that around for the rest of my life. I made my body, when mom forgot, my
right,
body's threat detection system turned on. And we have more afferent fibers heading north up to our head than efferent fibers going down to our body. So we
right,
are getting the signal from our bodies first. So our nervous system is saying, you're being left behind. And then our
right,
brain, it gets to our brain and we make meaning of it. We make meaning of the
right,
feelings, the physical sensations. We make a story and then we basically confirm, yes, body, you're right. I'm being left behind. I
right.
must not be loved. And then it's this ping pong effect going back and forth, just
Wow.
continuing it until we're able to interrupt that cycle. And part of that, I believe, that return to wholeness is to interrupt
Right,
that cycle at the body level,
right,
because our body, it needs to get the message, and oftentimes we need to kind of continue to calm it, and either via meditation, or there's so many different practices that you can do to
right,
act on the nervous system and help it feel safe and feel that wholeness, and get to a point where it doesn't make it into one of those holes in your heart.
right. No, I really appreciate that. And I would love for you to like share some examples of that, or so, I don't know, some practice, or something more than that. But the one thing that what was coming up for me is that a reason why I'm not aware, I lose awareness of my wholeness with a W, is because I filled my holes without the W with stories and meaning. So I mean, so it's no, so it wasn't a gaping hole, right? It
Right,
wasn't,
right. Yes,
there was stuff
yes,
in there. So
yep.
I felt that was it. That was making, that was making it all. But really, those stories and those meanings were just like placeholders, right?
Absolutely. That's a beautiful way to put it.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow.
Placeholders. And it's a
Wow.
matter of us deciding or understanding, well, having that awareness, because it
Right.
is hard to see that this exists. And again, having the awareness means you have to take personal responsibility, and having the responsibility means you need to try and figure out what to do about it and
Right.
respond to it. And that can be heavy and
Right.
painful, but going through those things, and oftentimes we're getting, if for me, my things are cyclical.
Mm.
So I would experience the same thing, maybe in a different form, but it had a common thread. It had a common theme, especially along the "you are not enough" piece.
Right.
And, it still pops up, right? I mean, even before this interview, my body was sending me signals like, hey, you should be scared. What if the tech doesn't work? What if you all of a sudden forget how to speak,
Right.
like there's just all sorts of things. And my brain could have easily said, yes, call Bill, tell him it's over.
Right.
He needs to send the bat signal for somebody else to come out, come on instead. But I worked on my body. One of the simplest ways to do that, and you were talking about an example, is to extend your exhale. When you extend your exhale, you actually slow your heart rate. It helps your brain kind of release this neurotransmitter that calms your body. So it's as easy as if, say, your natural count of inhale is an inhale of 4, then you could extend your exhale by a count of 2. So exhale for 6. And it really goes by the person and what their breath is. But
Right.
by doing so, you are actually acting on the body and calming it.
Right.
So it's a simple way to do that. And the more experiences that we have, Mastin Kipp, he's an author, he calls them disconfirming experiences. So the more we're able to have the body feel safe in a perceived threat,
Right.
the easier it's going to be to approach that situation and then have that threat detection system turned down from the get-go.
Right. Do you believe, and this is like a general question, but do you believe the reason why it's almost difficult to get our body under control? Because there's a part of me that believed that for a lot, is because of the threat, because we don't want to mess with that. We feel like, hey, I feel threatened right now and I should go with that and stay with that, instead of trying to calm myself, just kind of stay with it and just kind of roll with that. Is that how can we balance allowing things to happen, allowing our body to tell us what's going on, and not try to hack it, if that makes sense?
Yeah. Well, I would say, going back to the awareness piece, a lot of it is neural patterns that have been established, right?
Right.
So say that my mom forgets to pick me up from school, and now I have this like, I'm not enough thing going on, or whatever it is, I'm not loved. And then I'm because we're mammals and we're always looking for those threats as a survival mechanism. Oftentimes we will, because of our negativity bias as well, looking for those threats, we are only looking for that then. We actually have to actively, consciously work to wire in the positive. So we're constantly getting confirming experiences along those lines. So we have to look for those disconfirming experiences and kind of put ourselves in that situation. So oftentimes it's like to do it on a small scale. So say if I'm terrified to speak in public, maybe the first time I do it, I'm not going to go on the one word disconnect to connect show, but I'm going to talk to 3 friends, and stand up in front of the room and have them sit down like an audience and things like that. And I'm going to sense all the sensations in my body. Where do I feel it the strongest? What is it doing? And then I'm going to utilize any skills that I have to work with that sensation while I'm doing this. And I'm going to practice. The other thing is, so those neural pathways are laid. So we have to almost like create new routes, and work on those. The other thing is, and of course I just lost my train of thought, is that the awareness of the fact that, that we are born whole and complete. Like if you think about a baby, you don't even have to think about yourself, because sometimes it's hard to think about your own self as an infant, or if you've got a picture, this is a good one. But if you've ever seen a baby or held a baby, looking at them and being like right in the face and saying, you are not enough, baby, that is almost difficult to conjure, to like speak out of your mind, out of your mouth. It's hard to find fault in a baby, and maybe if they're a tough sleeper or something, I guess you could be like, dude, you really could work on getting some better disease at night, but I mean, from a personality standpoint, things like that, it's hard to find fault in a baby. Like they
Absolutely.
have this natural whole and completeness to them. And so understanding that you have that as well, and you're
Right.
literally, those holes you feel in your heart, those unmet needs are your worldview, are a
Right.
set of glasses that you're viewing the world from. Your body's viewing the world in that way. And it's
Right.
basically just working to protect you. That's its
Right.
number one job, and I brought my point back, and if I'm going on, please feel free to interrupt me. But
Yeah.
because we want to be protected, we do not want to be kind of exiled from the tribe. We
Right.
need to be part of the tribe. Our survival depends on it and having that connection. So we will do whatever it takes. So maybe if my mom was late to pick me up at school, and then I got this message and this feeling, and then I decided I was going to find some way to cope with it. Maybe I was going to be overly nice to my mom, or make sure she always had her car keys, or
Right.
develop this pattern in response to protect my need to survive.
Right.
A lot of it is
Wow.
unknown to us. So it's
Mm.
almost like you have to go back and ask, where did this come from? Where did this come from? And just keep going layers and layers deep to try
Right.
and get to where that unmet need even came from.
Wow. It's no, I totally, I totally get that. I'm really, I was looking at the baby, and what was coming up for me, it was like there is not an awareness of their, as the baby, of their wholeness, and their awareness because of how people are fawning all around them, that hey,
Mm-hmm.
that hey, I'm great, right? Yeah, type of thing. But it is like within that, many times, children, just show up, right? It's just
Mm-hmm.
like, it's just like, and so as adults, and as myself, it's just finding that maybe because of what I'm aware of and what I'm not aware of and what people are saying about me and not saying about me, it dictates how I show up and how I see
Mm.
myself as whole. And it really has nothing to do with with all of that.
Right,
That
right.
was, it was like in my, in my book, like, the first book, talked about what makes you you,
Mm.
of beyond the shell, and it says maybe it's, all of these things and none of these things,
Mm.
because it's all up to you. So
Yes,
so just be you, right?
yes.
And it's like, it's like we can decide and not decide that, and I look at myself, that it's like, you know I'm just myself, right? And it's like the more that I embrace that, and the wholeness of that, and I had the, a word complete,
Mm.
about a month ago, and it's like the completeness of my life.
Mm.
And it's like when you look at the completeness or the wholeness, there's a lot of things that potentially I'm not going to like,
Mm-hmm.
understand, appreciate, and all that other kind of stuff, but it's all there.
Mm-hmm.
And the more that I, embrace and acknowledge and get aware, of it, the more that I can just show up. Because
Yes.
sometimes I'm going to show up as, not a nice person or a
Mm-hmm.
nice person, and
Mm-hmm.
that's okay,
Mm-hmm.
as long as I'm willing to gain access to everything. And I think that, I think when you were saying about the negativity bias, and that we have to almost train ourselves to kind of be positive. I've shared in the past of my Sesame Street conspiracy, that the segment on, one of these things are not like the other.
Mm-hmm.
And I felt that, from an early age we were kind of conditioned to look for something that wasn't supposed to be there, or
Mm.
something that,
Yeah.
what if we, instead of that, it's like, hey, what are the similarities in this? What are the benefits of all of these things? Then the way we look at things are totally different. But maybe it's not a conspiracy, but just how our brain works. It's like,
Right.
hey, what doesn't
Right.
work here? What's doesn't
Right.
why is there a hammer here with all of this other stuff, right? Type of stuff. And I think that's how we look at our lives, or that's how I look at
Right.
my life sometimes.
Yep.
It's like, why is this here?
Yeah.
Instead of, this is here and let's find not find meaning or give meaning to this, and because it's here for a reason, and I can make that reason for that.
Yes.
So
Well, it's fascinating because our brain is so pattern driven, because if you think about it, like if you had to get up, if I had to get up and learn how to tie my shoes every day before I walked out the house, I would never get anywhere. If I'm like
right,
relearning how to brush my teeth and
right,
brush my hair and take a shower, I would never leave the house. So
right,
we, in order to offload kind of the menial tasks, or the energy, we lay down these patterns so that we can go about our day. It's like driving somewhere and not remembering how you got there.
right,
We go into our automaticity and we just go and we do it.
right,
And
right,
that's how it is with a lot of these bodily feelings, and noticing, what's different and that type of stuff. So it is just having an awareness of that we're set up that way.
right,
And it is a survival mechanism of the human brain and body. And it's a great thing to be celebrated, but it can also work against us.
right,
And, we think we are a certain way, and it's not that we're that way. It's that that's what our body signals, set off our alarm, and then we just established a pattern that we thought was protecting us, and
right,
we've just been going through it to offload energy off our brain for our entire lives. I mean, it is
right,
just beyond comprehension sometimes to think like, oh, I do that like all the time,
right, right,
and it definitely is. It takes a lot of awareness and work and energy to kind of like stick stop the wheel from turning, and
right,
to kind of change the trajectory of it. But it can be done, and
right,
it's done. It's a matter of kind of making the unconscious conscious.
right. It's kind of interesting that you say that, because so what came up for me is, at the beginning of the pandemic, and was talking about not touching your face,
Mm-hmm.
right? Don't touch your face so much. And I realized, I notice, I started to notice that I touch my face a lot.
Yes, I do the same.
And then because I do what I do, I was asking, one, how do I touch my face? And in what way do I touch my face? And most of the times, it's really a caressing or nurturing type of
Mm,
way. And I was like, and I never really. It's like it's almost everything will be okay. This
yes.
is fun. This is fun. It's like every once in a while I'll catch myself kind of reassuring myself
Mm-hmm.
about things, and I never noticed that before.
Mm.
And I would say, the story was because you didn't get that as a kid, right?
Yeah, right, 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 right.
All
Yep.
those kind of stuff. It's
Mm-hmm.
like, all right, all right, or back it off, right? Don't look for the blame there. But I caught myself really doing that and
Mm.
noticing, and now, even though I still touch my face, I catch myself
Mm-hmm.
touching my face, or before I do,
Mm-hmm.
I now, tell myself that, everything is fine. We're,
Mm-hmm.
we're good. And
Mm-hmm.
it's kind of to kind of help myself out. And is it about the patterns? You mentioned habits earlier today. It's kind of
Mm-hmm.
interesting that you mentioned habits, because one thing that I wrote in my notes this morning after meditation, because I saw something about I think it was like a book or something. Something came to mind, The Art of the Habit. I don't know if
Hmm.
that's a new book or
Hmm.
something, or it just came to my mind. And what I wrote down, to consider the art of the commitment.
Hmm.
And the reason why I think I've shared before on the show is that most of the times I do something consistently not because of a goal that I have, because I'm like horrible at goals. It's like I set a goal and then I'm like all over the place. You can't tell me to set goals, right? It's like a little kid
Rebel.
or something, right? Right? Yeah, type of thing. But I've noticed that when I say to myself, I am committed
Mm.
to doing this, it just happens. I don't,
Mm.
and then I'll notice that, geez, I've been doing this for 100 days, or like this show. I didn't, I really didn't have a goal of this is how many shows I'm going to do, or this
Mhm.
is all that other kind of stuff. I just decided within myself that because I enjoy these type of conversations, that I was going to commit to a daily conversations like this. However it was going to show up,
Mm.
either within this show or with other people, my friends through phone calls or whatever the case may be, I was going to commit to these type of conversations, and it just showed up in this show. So it's yes, my habits have changed, and
Mhm.
yes, and everything like that. But my when I look at my commitments, it really shows me what I, and I hate to say this, what I'm serious about,
Mm.
right? Or what
Mhm.
I'm really doing that. And so I don't know why this came up to it, in this conversation on whole, but I think for me, how I'm connecting it is that I'm committed to showing up whole and complete.
Mm.
I don't
Mhm.
I don't know what that looks like,
Sure.
but I'm committed to that.
Mhm.
And so whatever work and awareness that I need to have, I'm up for that because
Mhm.
I want to show up as whole.
Yeah. Beautiful. Well, and really, I mean, making that commitment, Bill, I see that as you taking the unconscious and bringing it and making it conscious, right? Because
Hmm.
if it's unconscious, like, and there's different, it's like bad habit, good habit, all these different things, but you
Right.
basically have made a conscious effort to commit to show up whole and complete. So now
Right.
because you're conscious to it, you're going to be able to filter things and say, is that thing going to help me along that journey? No.
Right.
Is that? Yes, I'm going to take this along with me, or I'm going to move in that direction, and be able
Right.
to know what resonates with you because you made that conscious commitment. I mean, the reason why I work with habits is because these neural patterns that we have are habits, right?
Right.
If I wake
Right.
up every day and, you know, I don't know, decide that I'm not a morning person, I'm grumpy, then I've
Right.
made that decision, and I'm going to fulfill that commitment to be the
Right.
grumpy morning person, right?
Right.
So there's so many different ways we can look at it. Certainly your example is a beautiful positive direction, and that's a judgment I'm making.
Right.
But
Right.
and the example I gave is a negative direction, which is also a judgment. Maybe it's a
Right.
good thing to be grumpy in the morning. I don't know. But
Right.
there are I believe that the way in to get to those holes in our heart and to get to those unmet needs and uncover things and get unstuck and feel good enough and all of that type of stuff is through our habits. It
Right.
is through, because our daily things, if I want to feel good in my body, but I'm eating 12 donuts a day,
Right.
there is an
Mm-hmm.
unmet need that I'm, as you said before, using a placeholder of donuts to fill,
Right.
and this is,
It
there
may be
is,
sweet for a while and tasty,
yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah,
But
right. But there is something that I'm making a reoccurring effort
right.
to fill or fix or change. And it's just a habit or neural pattern that I tried on, kept
Right.
on for 10 years, and it's not the one, but I haven't
Right.
recognized that yet because of donuts taste good and they do give you
Right.
a sugar high. So it's temperate. There's so many crazy layers to this. And that's why
Right.
it's interesting when you start to think about it, because it can be overwhelming, and
Right.
that's part of the reason why I coach people through this, is because it's having a kind of somebody to walk beside you and help you,
Right.
not to point out your blind spots, but just to ask questions that help them
Right.
become aware to you on your own is
Great.
helpful. But that's a really good example. I love that you said that. You made a commitment, and that's making the unconscious conscious, and then you're
Right.
fulfilling it, right?
Right. And I think what's came up for me is how what we do with our judgments, or
Mm-hmm.
how our judgments show up. Um, I've used before that my judgment free zone framework is that judgments are come, but they're free to go, right?
Mm-hmm.
I work hard to not to hold on to them,
Mm-hmm.
and I think it's that nurturing and that caring about how we're going to show up and how we're going to take care of ourselves, because I've noticed, for myself, that even, as with the nice guy label, when I was tough on myself,
Mm-hmm.
I was easily tough on other people.
Yes.
you know and so now that I have let that toughness go, and I look to nurture or to take care of myself, I've noticed that I am easily to care for other people,
Mm-hmm.
and easier to extend grace.
Mm-hmm.
There are those moments where it's like, no, they just need a kick in the butt right now, right? And that's the same for myself, right? But
Sure.
it is the ease of it. It's not like a hard turn,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and so and I like I said, I love nurturing yourself to wholeness. That's how it shows up for me. I don't know if that's
Yeah.
if that
Yeah.
shows up for you that way,
Yeah.
but I mean, but just really helping people to get the awareness of possibility.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Mm-hmm.
get that understanding and appreciating, and setting habits or rituals or activities to kind of help support that. And I think too often, for myself, I would have these great ideas or these great gumptions, right?
Mm-hmm.
With no support, no
Mm-hmm.
structure, not
Mm-hmm.
to kind of keep those, or kind of nurture them into fullness,
Mm-hmm.
or something, so it showed up easy in my life, instead of something that I wish that I
Sure.
wish I was this more, or something, or something like that. And just kind of when those sides of myself show up, I find ways to keep them around.
Yeah.
And I think it goes back to what we were talking about before, ab- about really looking to see if there are some placeholders, right?
Yes.
you
Yes.
know,
Yep.
and filling them up, right?
Yes. Well, and
Taking
seeing if
those
we're
out.
operating from them,
Right,
because when we're operating from those, we're kind of in a fear state. So
right,
our body will, we respond to that. Like we will operate in a fear state. When you
right,
are in fight, flight, or freeze, your prefrontal
right,
cortex shuts down. That's your
right,
thinking brain. You kind of
right,
need that to make some rational decisions. So
right,
then we're kind of functioning from that reptilian brain, which is
right,
only meant to protect us. And so
right,
we're going to be more the tough guy, girl, lashing out. We're going to be the tough person and respond. And we're going to then perceive the people on the outside as being difficult.
right,
Everything they're doing is going to be threatening. So it
right,
is it is really interesting that you're saying that when you're showing up in this different way after nurturing yourself to be more whole and things like that, it's easeful because the other people are also kind of reflecting that back to you.
Right.
We end up, it's really interesting. There's all sorts of podcasts and books and things that I've read about this, but like the way we show up, and this is like has to do with mirror neurons and something called co-regulation,
Mm.
where if I walk into the room and I'm angry, you
Right.
can probably feel it. Like if you've ever walked in and somebody's been arguing and you can like cut the
Right.
tension with a knife type thing, you can sense
Right.
it in your body first.
Right.
It is a co-regulation thing, and it has a lot to do with electromagnetic and um, electric and magnetic signals that our heart gives off and various things. So it's fascinating to think that if we're showing up in this, and this is why Camp Good Life Project and Camp is in Your Heart and
Right.
events like that work so well, is people are already showing up in this open receptivity. And it's
Right.
just like these, people just gravitating towards each other and knowing
Right.
that that's what they're there for. Whereas if I walk into um, my child's room and tell him he's got to make his bed, and he's like, that's not happening because he's got to focus on something else, I might, I'm not being not respected. I'm not being listened to, just like I wasn't when I was a kid. And now I'm feeling threatened. And now I feel like I need to yell and like get louder
Right.
because I need to be listened to. I need to be heard. Like,
Right.
so it's coming from such a different place. And then I'm giving off these insane signals that my kid is not going. So he's going to go into the
Right.
same, basically, Stephen Porges has this polyvagal theory where at the top, and Deb Dana is a therapist and author that translated it for the rest of us, is that she put it into a ladder format. So when we are in a safe and social connection, we are at the top of the ladder. When we are in fight or flight, we fall down kind of to the middle ladder. And then we are in freeze, we are at the bottom of the ladder. So fight or flight might look like anger and all this type of stuff, anxiety. Freeze might look like depression and shut down.
Right.
But when we're in an interaction with another and they're down the ladder, staying up the ladder is key. And you talked about
Mm.
having this almost self-regulation through touch by touching your face.
Right.
And co-regulation with another is touching their back, is
Mm.
making eye contact, is
Right.
talking in a soothing melodic tone, and not in that like louder kind of thing. So
Right.
there's this idea that we can self-regulate by using some of those principles and
Right.
recognizing where we're at on the ladder. And when we
Right.
do that, our interactions with another, even if they're down the ladder, can shift. So it's just fascinating to me that through self-awareness, through this understanding of where our holes, HOLES, are, through awareness, we can utilize different things to recognize where we're at,
Right.
find ways, through touch, through various things, meditation, whatever it is, commitments, conscious commitments that you fulfill, to nurture ourselves back to that wholeness. And whether or not we ever get there, if there's a
Right.
destination to be had,
Right.
to release some of those unmet needs that we've had, and part of that worldview that we've been seeing that we just don't care for,
Right.
that's not serving us. Um,
Right.
I don't know. It's something that is near and dear to my heart because I've done a lot of work on myself. I continue to do a lot of work on myself, and I just
Right.
see such potential for the world with it. Is if we all
Right.
took that introspective look and said, where are my unmet needs, and what can I do to, and not saying they're bad or wrong, like they were there
Right.
for a reason, for protection,
Right.
but
Right.
when you're through with one, what can you do to change it? Or like you said, fill it. I
Right.
don't know. It's interesting.
Yeah. No, it's we could talk about this for hours because
Yeah,
I don't know if it's
absolutely.
because of all the holes out there, right? Right. But no, really, I really get it. This is a time, I believe, a time of nurturing. So that's why it's important of what you're doing right now, and healing.
Mhm.
So that brings on the healing, and then we are feeling those holes, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Not just for ourselves, but encouraging other people to do, the work. In some cases, where I I got for myself, I'm not doing work on myself.
Mm,
I'm doing work with myself.
mm, hmm.
And the more that there is this partnership,
Yes.
and within that awareness, I can really love myself on a level to care and nurture myself to wholeness. So,
Yes.
wow. So, I want to, share your website. Is there anything that you've gotten from this conversation that you want to leave everyone with?
You know, just what you just shared at the end there, kind of walking side by side with yourself
Right.
is a huge step, because oftentimes we're quick to either take on someone else's view of us, if there was some sort of negativity coming our way, and talk to ourselves that way, or just beat ourselves up about things like, looking out at everyone else. We do the comparison game and think like, why can't I, I'm trying, I'm this, I'm that, it's not working for me, and what about me type thing. Thinking of yourself as that friend that walks beside you. What would you say to a good friend in those moments? How would you respond from that place to help them see their wholeness, to help
Right.
them get back there, to help them fill those unmet needs or holes in their heart? Like,
Right.
I think that's a beautiful point, that we have that ability to do that and for ourselves. Um, One thing that I'd love to share that may be helpful in doing that is I'm leading a 30-day meditation challenge. You can sign up at my website that's listed at the bottom there if you'd like. That I'm sharing some nervous system calming and reset tools, things that you can do even in challenging family Zoom calls or
Right.
meetings, work meetings, or whatever, but simple things that you can actually kind of affect the body and help it calm down, if you know that in that moment you are truly safe, and then it kind of gives you a little bit of space to explore, what is that? What is my body protecting me from? Instead of
Right.
looking at it as a bad thing or, negative thing, it's able to say, wow, like, thank you, body, for protecting me. Like,
Right.
your work is done in this area, we can move on to something else and put our effort somewhere else. But it's just to open up that awareness and start nurturing yourself back to that place of wholeness and all that good stuff. So thank you so much for having me, Bill. I've really enjoyed this conversation.
Oh no, it's great, and I really encourage people to to reach out to you because it's it's the simple things, but it's I say that there's a lot of things that are simple but not easy,
Yes.
but especially the way you present it and the way you show up, it creates that simplicity to kind of help us even just to give it a try. So
Thank you.
thank you
Thank you. I
very
appreciate it.
much. We'll say our goodbyes in the green room, but
Okay.
I really appreciate you being on the show.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, great. Wow, this is great. There was the more that I try to, and I can see myself touching my face again, right? It's okay, Bill. It's okay. Everything is everything is good. Embrace the wholeness of my life. The more that I can be in my life, and I would love to hear in the comments or read in the comments how whole is showing up for you. I really hope that this conversation had some value, not just in this time, but that after this time. And if you want to have your own conversation with me, I invite you to go to I Am William Brown and have a complimentary introductory session, and so we can just see how you can be yourself and live your life, because the world wants you, the world needs you, in the world is waiting for you. So go be you. Talk to you soon.